how you got this at some point because this contraption.
Are we starting?
Yeah, we're going to start.
Oh crap! Well, wait! I'm not ready to start. I'm not ready.
I'll wait.
All right, now we're ready. Now I'm ready.
You may be ready, but I don't. All right. So, thank you for coming. And I also want to thank Will for being our incredible host for all these months. Give him a round of applause. If you haven't already noticed, all these beautiful plants are for sale. And of course, he has beverages, including his famous cider that he sells in other places too. So please support him. All right. So for those of you that are new here, how we usually do it is I have 2 readers read, and then I have the people that signed up for open mic, then I have the last couple readers read. And today, since my birthday is June 3rd, as Artie reminded me, thank you, Artie, I'm going to also read. Yay. And thank you. And then we're going to take July and August off, but we'll be back the first Sunday in September at the same time. Unless there's a conflict, and Will will let you know, because his wife is pregnant too. Oh. And my daughter's pregnant. In fact, we're going to have to get the babies together because they're practically going to be the exact same age. Life is funny that way. All right. So, I have here such incredible readers that I don't even know where to begin because they're all just phenomenal. And especially, like I said, there's something in the water here in Pittsburgh, but I'll be going back to that later when I read one of my poems dedicated to the water here in Pittsburgh. We have, as you know, Joan Beatty, who, first of all, round of applause. So kind to first come. I invited her, and she was so gracious and said yes right away. She was my mentor when I went to Carlo and got my MFA in creative writing and poetry, and she really, really helped me through a lot of my writing. And she and I are like soul sisters because, as I was telling her, I was adopted, she was adopted. We had a lot of stuff going on as kids we had to overcome, and we just shared that bond, that sisterly like bond. So really special. We also have my other mentor who has been phenomenal, as you know, always alerts us to upcoming events, has her own event series, Hemingway's. If you haven't made it, you might want to try and go to the next one. And she's phenomenal as well, so Joan Bauer, give it up. We also have Ziggy Edwards, who I'm going to put on the spot right now by saying her birthday is tomorrow. So happy birthday in advance, Ziggy, who, as you know, has her own online journal. Yes. And so give it up for her. And then, of course, my buddy, who is also the sound guy, technical whiz, former boss, not because we had a falling out, I just decided that it was time for me to stop teaching at Duquesne and work for Right Pittsburgh. Since I'm going to be a grandma, I kind of want to have some free time for that, too. So give it up for Matt. I can't think of a better place to be celebrating my upcoming birthday than with everyone here today. So thank you. It really means a lot. And I believe Charlie's birthday is coming up too. He thought he was gonna get over on that one. We have cupcakes that my daughter Joy made. She couldn't be here because she has to work at Warby Parker while she's pregnant, ready to burst any day. She needs money, don't we all? So, she said to tell you she's sorry she couldn't be here. Jan Beatty's 8th book, Drag Stripping, was published by the University of Pittsburgh Press 2024. Her memoir, American Bastard, won the Redhead Nonfiction Award. Recent books include The Body Wars and Jackknife, New and Selected Poems, which won the Patterson Prize. Beatty worked as a waitress, abortion counselor, and in the maximum security prisons. She is professor emerita at Carlow University, where she directed creative writing. Mad Women in the Attic, I know we have a lot of members here today. I'm one of them. And MFA program. So give it up for the one, the only, the dynamite, Jan Beatty.
Thank you. Is this good?
It's great.
Sounds good, okay. Thank you so much, Nina. I was so happy when you asked me, because I haven't seen you for so long, for one, and like you said, we have a connection, and I don't know how long it's been, but I feel like I've seen you yesterday, you know. So happy birthday, and to all you Geminis out there, because we have a lot. And I'm happy to read with Joan, Ziggy, and Matt. This will be fun. So I'm going to read a couple new poems that I've never read. That's always good to get nervous. And strangely, for me, I think this reading has sort of a love theme. My kind of love theme, but so this is a love poem, new love poem. But my love poems, seem to have knives and guns in them, and you'll see what I mean. But okay, love on the Ohio. Newspapers covered my front windows. Curtains, I said, to keep people out. When you opened my turquoise refrigerator, a gas station burrito, a jar of water, ketchup. Where's your food, you said. That's it, I said. Piles of papers, books under the bed, my 10-inch black and white. That's your TV, you said. Yeah, I don't watch it much. The small desk my father made, the typewriter my boss from the restaurant gave me, wooden crates I scavenged in West Virginia, blues albums and Advent speakers, and the United Audio turntable I bought from the money Aunt Em left. I thought you might leave after the pink corduroy couch. I dyed its cover in the bathtub, trying to get the blood out from the red of my parents' house. The day you brought food, when you said, let's have some fruit, I was terrified. It wasn't the cutting, it wasn't the knife. Anything over the lip of the kitchen was my dead mother talking. No, not like that. You don't know what you're doing. I hid as a child under the yellow scarf, up the green ladder to the attic. Let's have some fruit, you said. So simple. How to tell you I couldn't. The Ohio running brown outside the kitchen windows, uncovered, and McKinley Morganfield's heavy voice all inside me. One hand on the knife, one on the apple. I said, how do you cut it? You stopped and turned. I don't know what you saw. A child in a woman's body, a woman unclothed looking for the first safe place. All I know is you didn't laugh. All I know is something opened as you stepped towards me. Here, I'll show you, you said. And it was red. Delicious. sort of, you know,
Wow.
that speaks a lot for Don.
Those refrigerators have never been replaced.
They're cool, aren't they? Yeah. Okay. Mission. Hungry on Valencia in the Mission, two guys outside the chicken shack. I lean against the bus stop and stare. 5 blocks from the Embarcadero seawall where the rich and homeless make their markets. There's no way to get a handle on anything, and maybe that's the ultimate beauty. One guy in black sweats and Kangol pulling chicken parts from the red-white box. Another in a giant hat looks up with brown eyes straight at me. Walking through days with light as companion and rough talk, the syllables move into night, no sweetness to stay. I don't move. He keeps looking, lifts a piece of chicken towards me, rings flashing on his big hands. You want some? Yeah, I say, moving towards him in my week-old jeans, hands in pockets. I rise up like a watching visitor. Who is really among us? That understated, unreal, sweet loving that drapes itself over a body. There you go, he says, then take the box, he says. His hands open to me, his hands so open. This is the last new one I'll read. It's called The Mine Shaft, and it starts with an epigraph by Ana Caballero. I wasted my youth on the flat breath of others. I loved the sight of my friend's face, her hair falling as we laughed at the blue table. This was our way. One day the place was gone. She was still there, no we any longer, and the blue table more open. The wellness voices, oh, be happy, be happy. Maybe the opening is the mine shaft, maybe to a finer world, or maybe none of that. I bought a self-help book after 20 years of faithful drought. Change is a road warrior. What happens when a cliche is battered? Underneath the mines, can we ever be new again? You know the axiom. My barn burned down, now I can see the moon. How about everyone's barn burned, now the moon is in flames? Fuck the Buddhists. I hold myself in contempt for my own destruction, cursing my own recognition. I'm wrapped in change, wrapped in the voices of others. Give me my friend back. Give me rage against all this burning. I always wanted to say that in the poem, fuck the Buddhists. Like, how can I work that in? I used to have 2 lines, fuck the Buddhists, fuck the Buddhists. I said, well, that might be a little too much. Okay. Okay, this is a poem with an epigraph by Sonia Sanchez. The first day I shot dope was on a Sunday. I had just come home from church. Got mad at my mother because she got mad at me. You dig? Junkie. There's light along the strip line tonight. This is your new family, the same as the old, cold, not there. Spot the dealer at 50 feet. Shady deal behind the van, side lot. No, the city's solitaire. 5 a.m. light after all night drugs. Don't look straight in the eye. Movement to the corner, same as the old. Don't acknowledge who to look at and when. Get the dough. Don't be stupid friendly. Shut up and listen. Know the main player. Walk away. Not too far. The way someone holds their head behind the van. same as the old. Study the movement, don't look like you give a shit. Night after night, don't acknowledge. They know you saw them. Behind the van, shut up and listen. Walk away, not too far. Gangster lean doesn't mean gangster. Same as the old, cold, not there. Get the dope, walk away. I guess love poems, that's a love poem to drugs, I guess. So different kinds of love poems. Twisted love poems. So this is, strangely, I went to the Iowa City Writers Workshop and Gerald Stern got me in, which was really nice, beyond nice of him. It was kind of miraculous of him, and but it didn't work out. Long story, but this is called Leaving Iowa City. I needed a job, needed to get away from the head cases of the overeducated. I crossed town to the biker bar where the backlot of Harleys, the beat leathers, and chain wallets made sense. I left the professor in the famous writing workshop wearing spaghetti strap dresses, who changed class time to suit her babysitter. And when the student said she couldn't make the time change, the professor shrugged, her whole dress moving up, down, with red spaghetti snakes. I needed something to hold me to the ground. Get beers for the bikers, pick up trash in the back room, watch the deadbeat manager jerk off to porno in his docksiders. Better than the other professor who asked what we read this summer. The students talking about when they lived in Europe, how they just had to read the cantos again. I'd rather spill pitchers on the black apron to catch mayonnaise, sprays from the soda gun, pick up keys, glasses, condoms, clean the urinal, everything steamy, suffocating, teeming, afraid my poems wouldn't survive the bounds of privilege. In this flat land of blue eyes and blonde hair, I slept with the first dark-haired boy I found. I did what I knew how to do. Blow the busboy in his 501s after a 12-hour shift, suck on free ice cream and pass out on the bar. Go crazy disco after hours at the gay bar full of Aldo and farm boys, and go home alone to watch Home Shopping Network and wait for serial killers. No keys to the farmhouse, where my bedroom's the first room in, living with a gardener and a fiction writer. My job was sleep with the boss in his baggy pants, no fucking way. Suck up to the mangy cooks if I want my food, joke with the hostess in her sad vintage dress, or she'll cry again. Take poems to the legendary writers, and after 2 months, pack up whatever fit in my 72 Pontiac Ventura and drive away. Leave the rest on the lawn. They had given me a big going away party too, and where I was working at the balcony in Shadyside, and then I came back and got my job, which was nice of them. But this is my last poem. I'd say this is a love poem. With a sawed-off shotgun in it. I think it's a love poem. When I was holy. The first time I was holy, my birth mother gave me a cheap plastic bottle of water from Lourdes with a red cap. Holy not because of the water, not because she said, oh, I'll get that for my little bastard baby, but the handing over. That perfect cinematic moment that birthed the expanding, the breathing water in me. I'm across the street from the sea, years later at the Miami Ocean Walk, and the green Art Deco they used in Scarface. Right where Tony Montana shot the Colombian on the steps him clutching his orange bebop shirt in his ratty drug dealer shoes, and the dramatic stumble down the steps after the classic scene with Marta, and the sawed-off shotgun on the bed. Quieto, no te muevas, cabroncito, before the chainsaw and the bloody bullseye, holy in its choreography, but really its justice. What is it you hand over? The holy baby, the yayo, the fake miracle water. When Montana assumes a shooting stance, unloads two into the Columbian in the middle of Ocean Drive, jumps in the car with sexy Stephen Bauer yelling, "Go, go." Is that holy? On the ocean walk, a Cuban band plays Bon Jovi, It's My Life. Golf carts of tourists rolling by, and the best strip shot of breeze I've ever felt. I can't get to the start of it, the getting born of it, but the middle much sweeter, like cardamom, like rhubarb pastry, which I don't like, but the berry color feels free. You tell me what holy is. I say the waiter with a smooth low, "Hey beautiful, don't lift the tray. I don't want you to work." Holy. His white t-shirt, jeans, flat black shoes. Miami palms in their sensual glide to the sky. Holy. Earth, sky, breathing water, one bowl of love, one thing. Holy. Now I'm a heart without a head, walking. I don't need to be right. I just need it to be worth it. And I've got a finishing streak. Everyone has their little gun, but it's the sleeve shot of quiet I want. I'll pull your arms over me. I'll be wrong and wrong and wrong as long as I can. Loving you. Thank you.
Wow, fuck. I just love that word. Thank you for using it. You know, we always are told not to use these words, but sometimes you just have to. Joan Bauer is the author of 3 full-length poetry collections, Fake Season, Turning Point 2023, The Camera Artist, Turning Point 2021, and The Almost Sound of Drowning, Main Street Rag, 2008. Recent work has appeared in Patterson Literary Review, Slipstream, Sharon Review, and Vox Populi. 3 of her poems have been nominated for a Pushcart Prize. For some years, she was a teacher and a counselor. She now divides her time between Venice, California, and Pittsburgh, PA, where she co-curates the Hemingway's Summer Poetry Series with Christopher Collins. Please give it up for Joan!
Oh gosh, thank you so much. Thank you, Nina. And it is thrilling to be reading with Jan again, which we've done before. And of course with Ziggy and with Matt, yay. And a big shout out actually to everybody who was involved in the Greater Pittsburgh Festival of Books yesterday, which was a triumph. It was just great. And I really just shout out to the organizers and to all the poets who read. It was really, those of us who were there for the fire alarm will be happy to start that for you. These are all poems from a new manuscript, which are really, in a way, love poems, but they're love poems to a lost world, in a way. And the title of the manuscript is Almost Paradise, California Poems. And when I'm in LA, I'm actually in Venice Beach, and I can walk to Beyond Baroque, which is LA's great literary center. And the first poem here is an homage to a poet whom I never had the privilege of meeting, but I was actually there for her memorial service, and so I was very moved by that. And here's the poem. Wanda Coleman, LA poet. I am dying in Lala, in a blizzard of sun, American Sonnet 66. Script writing days of our lives taught her discipline, and editing gentlemen's magazines gave her laughs. 3 jobs, then up at 4 a.m. to write, Bud Schulberg's Watts workshop, then a poetry class at Cal State LA. Her subject, the outcast, disenfranchised, the riot inside me. That voice, a finely tuned saxophone could sashay, insinuate, spiral, shimmy, demand. She didn't mind being called an LA poet, but better yet, a Venice poet. This is going back. She covered Angela Davis for the LA Free Press, co-hosted 14 years of radio on Pacifica, 500 readings, poetry with Gary Snyder, Ginsberg, Susanna Loomis, punk with Henry Rollins. You might have to look him up.
Nope.
You don't have to look him up. Good. Okay. 20 books, a Guggenheim, even an Emmy, a big woman, not afraid to cuss out any man. Her project to rehumanize the dehumanized, to teach that radical empathy. As her Black Sparrow editor, John Martin, told her, Wanda, no one has ever said that before. When I was about 17, I went to a play that was based on, that had been rewritten by the author, whom I'm going to read a poem for her. It was based on a short story he wrote in 1950 called The Veldt. Some of you might know who this is now. And I was actually in the same room with him, which was really amazing. And then there's more of the story. The prophet. There is more than one way to burn a book, and the world is full of people running around with lit matches. Ray Bradbury. When he was 17, Bradbury traveled to downtown LA by bus on Thursday nights to Clifton's Cafeteria. The Science Fiction Society met in the Brown Room. Bradbury, awkward, boisterous, a wonder we didn't strangle him. He found mentors in a setting fit for the fanciful redwood, rock grottos, waterfalls, the lighting dim, the decor heavy with taxidermy, stuffed bears, oddities. At Clifton's, the owner said, pay what you want. Heaping plates of turkey and cornbread, chicken, mashed potatoes, Jell-O, free limeade. Bradbury found his tribe. He'd buy a 10-cent malt and join the conversation. Newlyweds, Ray and Maggie Bradbury, lived in a 1-bedroom in Venice. Decades later, Bradbury bicycled around Venice, remembering their happy years as early beatniks. They were crazy in love, and the bookish Maggie took a job so he could write on a rented typewriter in UCLA's Howell Library, 10 cents a half hour. He wrote Fahrenheit 451. In the 80s, I lived blocks from Bradbury's canary yellow Chevy at Hills home with the big basement where he saved everything and wrote every day. Novels, screenplays, 600 short stories. Friends, Charles Adams, Gene Roddenberry, John Huston, but he never forgot where he came from, that Chicago suburb, Waukegan, Illinois, and the joys he found in libraries and books. He didn't speak. He augured, rhapsodized. There were sightings of him on my street, but I was never so lucky. There are a couple of we's. Who's we in these poems? And this first we is really my late husband Paul. Many of you have heard a lot about. And so he's in this poem, and here it goes. You can look this up. The apple pan on Pico. When you are seeking greatness, turn to the apple pan, a homey 1940s institution imitated everywhere from Duluth, Minnesota to Bahrain. Jonathan Gold, Los Angeles Times food critic, 2013. We found a fixer-upper with waist-high weeds and the original 1934 kitchen. It was close to Ray Bradbury's home, and we'd go on Saturdays to the apple pan on Pico and then browse the HO model gear for Paul at Allied model trains on Sepulveda. We'd maybe catch a movie. In the 30s, Cheviot Hills had been a studio hub. A neighbor had done publicity for Garbo. I drive along Motor Avenue, which ran north and south from 20th Century Fox to MGM. But after Paul died, I sold the house to a professor who turned the yard into a Jurassic jungle. 4 years ago, our cottage was resold and leveled for a fortress-like 2-story, 6-bathroom. The train store is gone. Jonathan Gold is gone. But the apple pan survives. 1 story with sloped green roof and 50 signage, still famous for smoked sausage hickory burgers. There are new owners, but for now, the pecan pie divine. So this is the person I'm reading about next is not someone I was even aware of in LA. And I only read about her a few years ago, and she's really interesting. And Eve's Hollywood. I wouldn't leave LA if the whole place tipped over into the ocean. Eve Babbitt's author, artist, hedonist. Everyone knew the dowager groupie, short skirt, tight sweater, witty, voluptuous. She'd do you, then kick you in the shins. Her father, a studio violinist, her mother, an artist. At 20, the iconic photograph. Babbitt's nude, playing chess with a clothed Marcel Duchamp. Her godfather, Stravinsky. Her first story's madcap escapades launched at Hollywood High. She lived for years on Formosa. Off Sunset met Steve Martin at the Troubadour, thought him too square for stand-up. Suggested those white suits. Designed covers for the Birds, wrote 7 books, which rivaled Didion. She slept with everyone, mostly before they were famous. And yes, she blew a book advance on cocaine, sober after 82, but until then her drug of choice, whatever was around. In 97, Babbitt dropped a cigarette, lighting a cigar while driving. 3rd-degree burns from waist to calves, then mostly a recluse. Years before she created a short-lived underground paper, Manifesto LAX, with stories by Steve Martin, poems by Carrie Fisher, photos by Edmund Shea. Sounds priceless. I found a copy. selling for $3,500, just so you know. She's really an interesting person. Her writing is really, really good. So this goes back to 1970, and there's a reference here to a 50s era comedy icon, and only a few of you will know who this is, but you should look her up. And she looked a great deal like my mother, which was really odd. She did. Imogene Coca.
Oh,
Imogene Coca. Yes. A comedy genius.
He was great.
Yes. The title of the poem is 1,000 Pigeons. And here Paul makes another appearance here. Paul, Dave, and I met George Carlin at Hamburger Hamlet in Westwood in 1970. Carlin had a big laugh and shiny hair. Behind the jokes, a serious guy. He promised to go on the Tonight Show and talk about the Vietnam War, but Carson cut him off. Carson had radar. That year we spoke in churches, temples, high schools, the Rotary. I remember a dweeby guy in Kiwanis breakfast, at a Kiwanis breakfast, who shouted, "We're doing a hell of a job in Vietnam." And Dave was like a Jewish red skeleton, and Paul, so Phil Silvers from Bilko, I felt like Imogene Coca in bell bottoms, long hair to my waist. None of this was supposed to be funny. Paul's been dead 30 years. Dave's wife has cancer. We're at Jerry's Deli. Dave reminds me of the laughs they had, timing me, doing my klutzy moves, setting up that card table on Bruin Walk. Why did I do that? I was the one who collected $100 each month for the phone from Mr. W, an old lefty with an office near Hollywood and Vine. When the daughter of his friend, Art Linkletter, took acid and jumped out a window, Mr. W wanted us to stop yakking about the war and warn kids about drugs. Maybe we should have. Dave says, you know you're really screwed up. I didn't call him when Paul died. 1,000 pigeons should shit on your head for what you've done. So early warning, 2 poems. So this is a poem. I mean, I've had an extraordinarily lucky life. I've most of the time gotten to do almost exactly what I wanted to do. But I had a real rough patch, starting about 94, and for a while there, where I was trying to be a public school counselor, which it turned out I wasn't really suited for in many ways. Now this poem has a title which is The Angels by Raphael, but the angels are really this detail from a painting by Raphael of the Sistine Madonna, and the angels, here's the Sistine Madonna up here, and at the toward the bottom of the poem are the 2 cherubim. They're going like, and they're looking up, and they're going like this. They're looking sort of quizzically at the Madonna, and it's like they're like, what? Okay. The angels by Raphael held steady their rose-breathed smiles in my school counseling office, though I knew their ears burned when I whispered, "Holy Mother of God," beside the sobbing girl whose English teacher had blood-red penciled her college essay, or when yet another John B. Righteous wanted to send his Luke the quarterback to Messianic college. I'd catch myself when the angels would pucker out their cheeks as I mumbled, "Damn, why'd you do that?" To the fireplug kid, again caught cheating. When I finally left that one-size-fits-all Pittsburgh suburb where I, aka Mrs. B, I really tried, 4 long years to not get fired for swearing or insubordination. I wrapped my angels gently in cardboard and tissue to drive them a world away to Southern California, where they discoursed with me on miracles in our cozy digs in Venice, and they whispered, "Would you like us to explain again the Immaculate Reception?" And then this is, the we in this poem is my partner John Sturicka, who some of you know because he does the sound and the photos and blog. And I should say in advance, I use the word yucca in this poem, and it has to do with Joshua tree. And technically, Joshua trees belong as are a yucca in a way. They are succulent. So the title of the poem, I'm bored completely. The title of the poem is after a sign in Joshua tree, tortoise crossing. I'm not a rock climber. I don't eat psychedelics. I never wore tie-dye, even in the 60s. I'm not a ufologist. I never probed a mine shaft or owned a quartz bar. But last spring, at the crossroads of the Mojave and Colorado deserts, I found a magic scarf. The bristly-armed Joshua can live for 500 years. Moths lay eggs on their white-green flowers, first to see the otherworldly yucca, the Pinto people, when a sluggish river still crossed the Mojave. Mormons named the trees for the biblical Joshua lifting his hands to heaven in prayer. Then came the gold miners who dug hell-bent with pickaxe and shovel, leaving behind their shanty towns. At Joshua Tree Inn, a shrine to Graham Parsons, who died there at 26 from a stupendous load of morphine and booze. We stayed once in room 8, where he's memorialized, with birds posters, beer bottles, guitar picks, vinyl and sage. We now stay at the Budget Safari Inn. Ravi and Jasmine are gracious. The king bed is firm, the room clean and modest. At night, we travel beyond the town's lights to stargaze in the desert. I'm a tortoise with a magic scarf. Thank you.
Wonderful, just wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. What a history. Okay, so now we have the open mic. Okay. So first up we have Paul 3. Is that what you go by, Paul 3?
Z.
Oh,
Rhymes with me.
all right. Go ahead.
3 Z's. 18 lines for you, for 180 syllables. First title is Inkwell Flippant. There's 2 vocabulary issues. First line, Eve is in Ruth, and rain as in EIGN, either constraint or time of majority. Inkwell Flippant. At this graveyard eve, finite solemn rain, Appaloosa bare, mercy chose winter, mere foolish, back when we were drum-like. Thinning our tulips, the trellis row in. I hid from gray to deputize coupons. These feet, ripe, swollen, and ankle has borscht. Geriatric credence, chain stitch, black shawl. Autumn call sign, everyday pomp is king. Between each thought and impulse, short circuit. You are my sane tease, a mindless footprint. 8 lines, title, Chunky Soup Curse. Subtitle, Spank Piece, piece as in portion. Unilateral, eclectic nuance. 10% strap-on to gaslight or birth. We are built for this. Potato retain heat. An encrypted salient omission. If sex is a chore, skip the rinse cycle. Beyond oxygen waltz, ozone pot luck. Carpe diem and pejorative geist. Flip side, addendum, soiree gravitas. Thanks.
Wow, thank you so much. Next up, birthday June baby, Charlie Bryce.
Wow, Jan and Joan, they were wonderful. Fuck the Buddha. No, that's going to be an epigram, and I bet half the poets here have already started the poem in their head. This is a new one, it's called What They Did to Pat. He was the only one of us who talked back to the nuns. During algebra class, he let out a yawn that was more like a howl. Who did that? Sister Joseph demanded. I did, Pat said. You have a detention, the nun intoned. No can do, Pat yawned again. I've got to work. We laughed as Sister Joseph's face turned Advent purple with rage. She grabbed her rosary beads to anchor herself. I'll call your parents, Patrick. The number's 632-1548, bellowed Pat. They know I gotta work. We savored each insolent word out of Pat's mouth. More than anything, Pat wanted to be a Marine, wanted to go to war in Vietnam. We tried to dissuade him, but he was adamant, enlisted right after graduation. In boot camp, the schizophrenia bivouacked in his brain, commenced a sneak attack. He used a bayonet to cut his wrists. His DI thought he wanted to wash out. No one wore the uniform more proudly than Pat. The Marine Corps gave him an honorable discharge, shipped him back to Cheyenne in a catatonic state, lost his records. His parents fought for a medical discharge so the government would pay for his psychiatric treatment. I visited him in Bethesda Hospital in Denver. He showed me a sculpture he'd done in OT, a plaster bust of Satan, long black donkey ears on either side of the fire-red face, eyes wide and wild from watching the demons that patrolled his psyche. So why write about this sad, tragic life? I still yearned to spend a little more time with Pat. Remember the Coors quarts I drank with him, car parked somewhere north of Cheyenne on a frozen prairie, eating pizza, arguing about the war. Just a few extra moments loving this boy whose trouble was so special to all of us. At our 25th high school reunion, he wrote that he hoped he'd be dead by our 50th. He got his wish.
Such a moving poem and tragic. Next up is Zeke. Welcome, Zeke.
Thank you. Oops. Wrong side. I was often asked what it was like to do all that time in prison, and I just finished reading the book by Solzhenitsyn, A Day in the Life of Ivan, forget the last name. Yeah. So it prompted me to write this book, this poem. It's called A Day in the Life. 1. Morning. Seeing through walls, he pictured the colors on the other side. Searching for ways to alter the sameness, he recalled a world beyond his reach, a time he could not restore. Alone with his thoughts, he surrendered his hopes and turned off his dreams. But then he recalled them. Longing to return, he hoped to live again. 2. Midday. He lowered the hammer as hard as he could. The rising metal puck never struck the bell. Yet for some reason he kept on swinging. Something inside would not let him fold. It might have given short relief, but the cost was prohibitive. 3. Afternoon. The wind moved slightly. The slow-moving currents played at his senses. The pine trees were full and had a rich scent. The clouds were signposts guiding his journey. But the years in exile had blurred his passion. Desire became hard to define. 4. Evening. He sat at his window, his silhouette outlined in a soft yellow glow. He imagined a young man crossing a street below. For just a moment, memories resurfaced, and sadness changed to a reflective smile. Too late to matter, the exit was closed. 5. Night. The road to freedom was beyond recognition. Behind rippled glass, he could not define it. The distortions frustrated his view. He averted his eyes, he covered his ears. Imagining open sky, he found his old self through his dreams. 6. Epilogue. The next day, he did it all again. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next up is my good friend, Valerie Becker.
I never actually thought I'd read a poem off my phone. But here we go. We won't get that, sorry. Venice. My husband and I sit in Piazza San Marco, sip overpriced coffee in morning sun, and at home my friend loses pieces of herself each hour, forgets where she lives, forgets the word puzzle, forgets stove, car, her son's name. People cross bridges on their way to work or shop, or perhaps to pray in the cathedral looming over the piazza. Years ago, we went to Venice. My husband and I, my friend and her husband, wandered through street markets with their array of fresh fish, tripe sandwiches, piles of garlic and greens. When we get home, I call her, ask if she remembers the little hotel, the gelato we ate every day, the restaurant where we drank too much wine, the waiter who took our photo. She sighs, says she is tired, is going to lie down, take a nap. I look again and again at that photo of us. See how happy we were? Thank you.
Be nice.
We have to make sure everything's working right because we want to put this on YouTube later. All right, so. All right. Ziggy Edwards lives in Pittsburgh and edits the online zine Papagas. Ziggy's poems and short stories have appeared or are forthcoming in publications including 5 a.m., Dreams and Nightmares, Grassland, and Strange Horizons. Pittsburgh Poetry Exchange published her first chapbook, Hope's White Shoes. And we do have books for sale, so please do purchase them afterwards. Thank you. Come on up, Susan.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Yes. Is it too much? I cannot tell with this microphone. Okay. Thank you so much to Nina for organizing this, and Matt for your technical genius, and to all my fellow readers, and to the Greenhouse Co-op people for hosting us. Thank you. I will start off with an oldie. This is from an old issue of Rune. It seems like the right time of year to read this. Spring. When I die, it will be spring. Before dawn, only the dim fluorescent above the stove, the distant burble of birds. I will be alone and calm, will survey the graying sky, like a farm boy setting off. I say this, knowing full well it might be blood and panic. It might be winter, knowing it will not be my choice. I knew Joan was reading some LA poems today, so I wanted to compliment Joan by bringing some Pittsburgh poems. Pittsburgh is my hometown. Super Bowl. Saturday night, a bus eels down dark roads. Its white-lit insides hold 4 weary men bundled in jackets, black knit caps bearing one sign, a tri-pupiled eye named for their father's lives' work, gone the way of the burning bush. The strangers decode statistics, recount this season's battles to prove the Steelers will win. They got to. They just got to. Each man will disembark at a different stop, stay home tomorrow. Tomorrow, each will dance in the street with neighbors he barely knows, a dance of victory and answered prayers.
Forlorn hope, but okay.
That was a while ago. Not a new poem. The first time I saw anyone happy in Pittsburgh. It's not a miserable town. It's just everyone here sleeps in the same bed, on a ball of gum bands crossing over and under, pulled along bridges and rivers and sewers, twisting to meet again. Sooner or later, in a row house maze, a summer night porch on the fringe of a party, a rolling road of quarter turns where the looming skyscraper jumps horizons. I've seen you before, and before. But this one time, a woman I knew as a girl ran across the museum's marble floor to leap into her then boyfriend's arms, hair flowing behind, face of a comic gazer, her heels sent up echoes. Sticky paper. My parents are in the process of moving back to their hometown, or to my dad's hometown anyway, so we're going away from Pittsburgh a little bit. Tales of Durham, North Carolina. 1. AM radio. The ranch style ringed by false holly kept the scene of Dad's happy adolescence. We slept in our uncle's old room, yellow with twin beds and a spaniel's oil-brushed profile. In darkness, my sister snoring, the room became an eye scanning the distance we'd driven, and an ear tuning in faint voices on the Pittsburgh station. 2. The toy store. I wanted at least 3 dolls, all of them packaged on shelves with their eyes painted open. Uncle Sid enjoyed buying things. We enjoyed pondering what we could get. A creepy place, its white tube lighting evoking a UFO exam room, but full of toys, and therefore the best place on Earth. To some degree, we don't choose what moves us. 3. Gadget. I pressed the red button and babbled over the last recorded words of my grandfather. The box, kept on the kitchen counter, served as an audio post-it. Sent to the yellow room until dinner, watching the spaniel pine toward the window. They never forgot those lost words and never mentioned them again. I'm gonna skip this one. Okay, so you can't see it because you're not looking at this poem. But it is a bel absente, which Arlene Weiner encouraged me to try to pick up. I'll quickly try to explain the rules without messing them up too much. The title of the poem, each stanza takes a letter in the title of the poem in order, and I can use every letter of the alphabet except that letter. So the first stanza, for example, the letter A is not in the first stanza. So those are the rules, and this poem is called Aliens. When government cheese dried up, the services limped on, bookended by slices of rye. Quentin resented his job in the X-Files division, molding citizens' thoughts concerning little green men. The pay sucked, for one thing. If he got a quarter every time some bozo posted a whiny comment fingering him as a Fed pushing UFO stories, he might have kept up with condo fees instead of exiting the HOA in disgrace to join the masses in rented bunks. So now he had to sleep next to them and under them, as well as analyze every documented thought of the ones deemed jokers who posed FAQs troublesome enough to sway crowds out of buying into this upcoming war against ambassadors from across our vast galaxy, jumping on board with talk of organizing all humanity into supra-patriotic fighting squadrons, aka space bomb fodder. Besides extra meal chits, the work gave zero perks to keep him quiet. So why avoid revealing the truth to his social media foes, his fed-up army of roommates? Quentin figured the heavily armed rank wearing actual camouflage drew better pay than an anonymized keyboard jockey like him. He continued the unremarkable work of nudging everyone over a cliff. I realized I forgot to say that you have to use every other letter in the alphabet except the letter of the letter. Okay, so get it. All right. Sunken ship. In the bread room of the sunken ship, 12 mermaids circle, their hair cold smoke. Wreathed in red halos, they chant over a trove of pirate bones. They chant to their mother, the sea, as her blood bathes their tongues and gills, to the eyeless gods who rule from bottomless trenches. 12 mermaids on the eve of an earthquake pray for a curse, for temple cities of mangled ships in trade for the slaughters, haunting rocky coasts until their apparitions abandoned the surface for refuge. Seamen quiver in their sleep. Okay, I will read this poem. It is actually appearing tomorrow on my birthday, just coincidentally. Oh, and I should say happy birthday to Nina, early birthday. Practically twins. So this is Geminis. Yeah. So this is appearing in an online magazine called Strange Horizons. It's kind of a sci-fi magazine. Hansel and Gretel part ways. After the oven, the peppery stench and green smoke searing their lungs, they flee. But in the small clearing, she grabs her brother's arm. Wait, the house! So they drench the witch's corpse, bloating walls where water splashed bread, and they stay, rationing doorframes and trim, until Gretel, watching birds peck among tree roots, says, "We must learn to hunt." And Hansel sets down his pail. "We should find Papa before the snow." Having seen cocoons big as women deep in branches, Gretel cannot unsee them, or footprints smaller than hers, or the chimney glimpsed and skirted, a whiff of shortbread. So she breaks the promise she'd whispered each night into Hansel's cage. So now she says, "They don't want us." But he shakes his head and in the morning has left, taking his pack and a modest piece of the floor, and Gretel never finds him. Not a sign or a shoe, though each fall she searches, lengthening her pebble trail to the leaning sugar house she patches with wood and mud. Okay, last two. Heirlooms. I don't have a plan for how to pass each day, but by the time I finished the musts and needs, then filled in the rest with wastes and wants, whole strands of hours hang blue-beaded, identical. Earths between my fingers, weather forecasts fulfilled by how light hits them, where waves or lava break, the parade of pets to scattered graves, These are only jewels. It is not vain to wear them. Flaws repeated like a thumbnail's warped corner that tears in the same spot, tears and regrows weak. It is cowardly, the way I loop these days within each other to lock inside a drawer, to keep at bay my inner nun who nightly counts and clutches, squeezes sorrow from routine, trickling down her arms the small, occlusive sin of throwing heirlooms in the lake, piece by piece. And I will end with Jean's laughing because she knows what I'm about to read. It's become like the greatest hits poem that, like, if I were a band, I'd get, like, in 20 years, I'll be sick of everybody. But I'm not sick of it, so I'm going to read it. To live in the woods. Try to explain how you escaped, how you didn't know the pitcher of blood you drank was your grandmother's, how you could spend an hour in the woods chasing forget-me-nots as the sun set, how a beast could seem like a friendly neighbor, how your mother could send you alone. Nothing frightens villagers more than a lone girl in a torn cloak. All the wolves home for supper, their wives sending signals up chimneys. When you tire of roots and squirrel meat, blame the huntsman's lazy patrols for pushing predators so deep among trees. Blame the stupid beauty of flowers that nod at you knowingly as the path grows thin. Blame your grandmother's blood. Blame the wolf you've become.
All right. So, as you know, our sound guy and poet friend here, Matthew, is next up. So, Matthew Ussia's first book, The Red Glass Cat, which is up for sale as well, was published by Alien Buddha Press in 2021. His writings have appeared in Mr. Rogers and Philosophy, Future Humans in Fiction and Film, North of Oxford, Trailer Park Quarterly, Anti-Heroin Chic. He is also an editor, podcaster, posthum thereminist, sorry if I can't say, okay, softcore punk, post-punk backup singer, and social media burnout.
Thank you. So I read a little fast, and that's not for everybody. So I'm going to do a thing, and maybe this can become a new normal sort of thing, but I have an accessibility copy of my poems that I'm reading today. If you want to scroll along in glorious 14-point Times New Roman, just pass that all the way back, shoot it with your camera, because after all, it's up to us now for equity and inclusion and respecting each other's diversity, because the government's not doing it anymore.
There you go.
All right.
All right.
It is an honor to be here on this triple birthday reading, which is wonderful. And I guess birthdays are a celebration of life. This is about something sort of like that, but not really. It's called Where Do I Leave a Negative Yelp Review About the Passage of Time? I asked because a guy I knew in college has been in the ground for 26 years now. And the more people my age I know are joining him every year. And I got this thing with my lower back, and I love cookies as much as I hate worrying about blood sugar. And I try to avoid seeing my doctor as much as I can. And my friends just took their eldest son on a campus tour of the place where I teach, where I hope he doesn't do some of the things we all did together when we were in college. Like, how the hell did any of this happen? And how many times do you ever really know for sure it's the last time you've ever done anything? The last time you have sex, eat a grilled cheese sandwich, and that first breath of the first time you step outside on the first warm day of spring every year? But it's not like much in my home life has changed. I've had the same coffee table since 1997, same partner, different dogs, more cool stuff. And it's just the world outside my house has become gradually more unhinged. And I have this device in my pocket that lets me trace the gradual unraveling of everything, internal and external, in real time. But there's nowhere that lets me leave a negative review about the passage of time. Only Asian fusion restaurants, car washes, and places that specialize in upscale bar food. So what? Am I just supposed to take a pen and gouge it into old vacation photos? Maybe grab a lipstick and write it on the bathroom mirror as a reminder for the next time I see myself naked. 2 out of 5 stars. Sure, there's wisdom and nostalgia, but once you get in, you're stuck there until you die. Wouldn't recommend to friends. And so Joan Bauer said, why don't you submit some poems to the Chiron Review? And so this will be a poem that'll be in, I guess, the summer issue. It's called Uncle Carl. Stillborn, suffocated in my grandmother's birth canal. The doctor had not yet arrived, and the sisters, who knew nothing about the pains of childbirth, told her to keep her legs together to preserve her modesty, and my grandmother, so terrified of sin, obeyed. Speaking of family drama, this poem is currently in the Keystone Poetry Anthology that just came out on Penn State University Press. This is my family's immigration story, because immigration is awesome. And I love it. And so this is my family story. It's called Arriving in Westmont. My grandparents always wanted to move up here, become hilltoppers, a nickname to show the mill rats below who won't be drowning in the next flood. But for the looming fear of seasonal layoffs, the closest my grandparents ever got were graves in Grandview I could never find on my own. Settling for a West End duplex, he worked first shift, waiting for the bus before dawn, losing his hearing in a shower of sparks. My grandmother got bit by a rat at the bakery where she worked. I lost the socialist campaign buttons I found in their attic. On my way to pick up a dinner that to them a wedding feast, for me is boring Saturday night takeout. My uncalloused hands sign away what would have been a week's wages after the tip. I've worked hard to get here, but never at the mouth of a blast furnace. I was born during the last great flood, a long-distance call from my mother as she was going into labor, followed by catastrophe. A local call 3 weeks later from a ham radio operator in Perth Amboy, New Jersey, talking to someone in Morellville, claiming he was a friend of my grandfather, who wanted to know if I was a girl or a boy. His health failing, they had to bring his first grandson as soon as I was ready to travel. When my parents called from the opposite end of the turnpike, he turned his chair around with his back to the television. For 5 hours he stared at the door, waiting until he could hold me for the first and last time. This one's by request. It's called What John Kruk Told Me About the Writing Process. John Kruk looked like the kind of guy you'd call to snake out a drain, who'd show up in a dented pickup, box of stale donuts baking on the dash. Teammates laughed at first sight, stopped when he hit 309 as a rookie. After he got the Phillies into the World Series, a concerned citizen spotted him at the zoo, juggling 4 hot dogs, a cigar, and a beer. Said, athletes should set better examples. Kruk, with tobacco spit stains on his shirt, said, ma'am, I'm not an athlete, I'm a ball player. Sometimes writing is soundless flight, swift movements incapable of cutting the air, propelled by invisible grace. Whenever this happens, I feel like a writer. But writers rarely last as writers. Those who try burn out after a few luminous stanzas. The rest know about untold hours, the keyboard, the blinking cursor, the null of white space, pushing keys. Whenever someone asks me about my life as a writer, a small part of me always wants to say, ma'am, I'm not a writer, I'm a key pusher. like I said, yeah, I do have books for sale. I'm not reading anything from my book. But hey, I haven't grown as a person or as an artist. So the 2021 book, if you like this, it's the same shit. So it's fine. We're good. It's just we're floating until I get to that, Shakespearean second childhood, and, whatever. But I'm gonna try to ride that way for a while. This is called When the Light Turned. After the poetry reading, on the way home with a head full of alliteration and spondee, a doe at the corner of Dallas and Penn, lurching forward, curious about crossing, light speed 4-lane cross traffic, a life in the balance, contingent on impulse. It's impossible to drive in some parts of PA for 20 minutes without seeing a deer carcass, but I'm rooting for her. I coast in front and honk in hopes she'll retreat into Homewood. It works for a second, but the manicured gardens of Point Breeze prove too tempting. She lunges onto asphalt, headlight tracers miss her face by inches, sprints the opposite way down the sidewalk. They say watch out for deer is Pennsylvanian for I love you. I'm just glad she's gone, even if she's sure to be struck soon. Before I could move, she's back. When the light turned, I let her get in front, and I and my wife's yellow Fiat 500, determined to make sure she gets the fuck away from this intersection, decide the Fiat must become a mountain lion. We play an ancient game, but this time the hunter goes too slow. I chase her down Dallas through front yards until she turns into the backyard of a mid-century modern home where I hope the azaleas are delicious. Thank you. This is another one by request for somebody who's not here but might see this on the internet. It's called Amy's Defense of the Smashing Pumpkins. You know the band, the Smashing Pumpkins from the 90s? Didn't age well. But this is her defense. This is my opinion. This is her defense of the Smashing Pumpkins. Jason lost the bet. Missed the question about Chekhov's rule, so he had to go get the study break beer. No easy feat in a town of Mormon blue laws, and with all that time and all that privacy, it was time for the two of them to explore. First, it was the shelf of Alan's comics. Then it was Alan's hand on the inside of her thigh. Put Siamese Dream on in the living room stereo, and by the end of Cherub Rock, they were shedding their clothes while passing through the shower curtain that was his bedroom door. Jason got sidetracked by friends at the bar, but Alan's roommate came home by Soma. Seeing the tangle of bare legs through the curtain, heated 2 baked potatoes in the microwave, stuffed them in her jacket pockets to keep herself warm on the streets of Cedar City, while she waited for both of them to make it to the communal bathroom down the hall. Years later, whenever she hears the refrain of today, the greatest day I've ever known, in the supermarket, the airport lounge, all she can think of is Alan, who died alone on the bathroom floor of a hotel in Vegas. His blonde hair, bright green eyes, looking down from above, the feeling of sinking into his mattress as he sang along. Speaking of human Congress under interesting conditions, you can all speculate, and if you want to buy a book or talk to me later, I want to know if you think this has already happened. This is called The First People to Have Sex in Outer Space. If it hasn't happened already, it's going to be in our lifetime. Secret pioneers walk among us, whose names we might never know. Frost wrote, "Earth's the right place for love. I don't know where it's likely to go better." But as a species, you have to try it, just to see. What celestial pleasures might unfold when weightlessness frees us from our bodies, because like it or not, gravity does a lot of the work here on Earth. Thank you. It's also such an honor to be reading with Jan Beatty, who came to St. Francis College in the late 90s. And a couple of my friends who were there, who witnessed that poetry reading, said it was this utterly transformative thing. It could have been for me, but I didn't go. But this is a story about St. Francis University. This is also the true story of the 3rd email I got in my Duquesne work email account. It's called Tuition. A suburban dad Kids got into good schools, chasing the eds and meds dream of this new economy. A job at the airport lost, fall semester approaching, all those digits in those outstanding balances. 3 a.m. with a 9mm, 2 bullets each while they were sleeping, didn't want his wife and children to suffer, shot the beagle too, before turning the gun on himself. A relative said in the paper, I guess he just wanted to take care of his family any way he could. True story. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, sorry, I'm ending grim, and this is also grim. Some say this is the best poem I've ever written. I don't know. This is called The Game. Late spring day at the Friars Cemetery, I walked down to see old friends from my college days, buried in rows of identical graves, brothers in Christ who all failed to get me to follow them in faith. Perhaps I was their token non-theist friend for keeping piety honest, or thought they were playing a long game, confident of my long walk towards salvation. Father Tom always told me, doubt is just a natural phase. Those bodies who never knew the sanctuary of other bodies lay under my feet, victory uncertain. What final thoughts at the end of lives dedicated to opening a door that turned out to be a wall? An ending of absolute despair before the relief of dreamless sleep, and the rest of my life knowing it's only a matter of time before the big reveal of which one of us was wrong. Thank you. Oh God, I gotta do more.
I'm so
I'm already
sorry.
running the sound and running poems. Oh man.
Who else is gonna do it? Come on.
Okay. I'm persevering. Nina Padolf's book of poems, the birthday girl Nina Padolf's book of poems, Uprooted, Kelsey Books 2021, explores being adopted and real life experiences. Her forthcoming picture book, Samantha, the Peanut Butter Detective, Pegasus Publishers UK, is estimated to be released in late 2025. Why, that's this year. Her recent poems are in the Watershed Journal, fall of 2025, P.A. Bard's Western Poetry Anthology, May of 2025, which was last month, Trailer Park Quarterly. And hey, she's the curator, I don't know if you've heard of this, but it's the curator of the Cider, Greenhouse Cider and Plants Co-op readings in Pittsburgh, and an instructor and board member with Write Pittsburgh. And so come on, let's bring the birthday girl up.
Thank you, Matt. All right. This first poem was going to be in an anthology that didn't actually occur, so I might send it somewhere else. Let's see. Cities into cemeteries, and now this. In March of 2022, the Pope announced Putin must stop this massacre before cities risk being turned into cemeteries. 3 years later, Ukraine's minerals become the focus of twisted negotiations that turn awry, leave Zelensky in limbo like a yo-yo. With the cord snapped, all bets rolled around the blood-red carpet. Democracy left the White House yet again. Threads of yellow and blue dangle like trophies. Still seeds watered by insurmountable loss, boldly birth sunflowers. The Watershed is an excellent place to submit your work in case you haven't heard of them. And recently in the fall, they published a poem that I'd like to dedicate to Jan today because I think she'll relate to it. In the Blood. We come from a line of shushers, the ones that left our dreams in some empty lineage. Convenience signed off regrets. Adoption is supposed to reference the wanted, to take the unwanted, use whiteout. Some kids pretend they were switched at birth, hope another family is waiting to welcome them home. Private adoptions create knots in bodies, tied up in why. Some may interject, be grateful, but our slates were marked clean before we could claim them. We use labs, connect dots in DNA, retell lost stories. So I spent a lot of time in Highland Park. That's where I was born and raised, and I also used to walk a lot to Walnut Street and Shadyside. And so this poem is kind of dedicated to the Listening Post, where I bought a lot of my records and fell in love with one of the guys that worked there, but that's another story, another poem. But Buddy recently passed a few days back, and so I thought I would dedicate this poem to the former owner of the Listening Post. It's called Must Be Something in the Water, and this is forthcoming in Trailer Park Quarterly. Highland Park, Pittsburgh, PA, 1970s. High schoolers are notorious for being rebels, preoccupied with sex and fuck yous, blaming on our mothers, whose middle-aged pent-up anger took its toll on rebellious daughters. We were convinced there must be something in the water. We replaced boring white bras with scarlet red lace, purchased at the expensive Shadyside shop, ready for big hurrahs. While our mothers bitched at us to do our chores, watched us like city hawks as we left the nest each school day. Platform shoes hidden in Turner's milk boxes on our porches, with flavored cherry and cola lip glosses stashed in pockets. Whatever our moms had to cope with, they found flaws with our friends, clothes, our need to explore the freedom of the great outdoors. We smoked joints in the park by the farmhouse, munched out on Pringles and pretzels. In the basement, speakers zoned out habitual nags with smooth tunes from Boz Skaggs, hummed along in our faded jeans like Elton John's Blue Jean Lady. It was the 70s, a time of disco and rock, fed our preoccupation with Peter Frampton's daring jam, I Wanna Fuck You. It's that word again, Jan. Okay, so this was just recently in the PA Bars Western PA Anthology. It's called Moody. You might remember the mood rings. If sorrow is worn like a gem around your neck, would it change colors like a mood ring? Would it turn from jet black to forest green? Would it glow with the phases of the moon? How might it look when it reaches its fullest point, like the state of affairs at present? Would it become opalescent, then shadowy gray, with small stars in slate sky? Sorrow remembers that first time it circled inside, found its home, that quiet indigo night, how sleep let it drift away temporarily, only to revisit with the morning light, like that far away hope that it went away. And I told my friends I was going to read this one because, well, you know, with Ozempic being so popular now, I just wanted to write something about this damn BMI bullshit. And so this poem's called Dearest BMI. I remember the day my PCP told me, "You're in the orange zone." Orange has never been my favorite color. Why not the purple zone? Soon the avalanche of carb killers will become the marathon race of look at all of those bed betrayers. You can't just eat one piece of crunchy French bread or 2 bites from a sticky bun bound to gum in your intestines. Sweet set off sugar alarms in a body that craves buttercream icing and, dare I say, milk chocolate candy bars. Stick to the dark side, they say. Bitter is better. Food journals make me obsessed with calorie counting. Even air must count as something. The exercise machine shows I've endured 35 minutes at 200 calories. Hardly a fair exchange. Maybe this helps my BP, which goes up, while my BMI hardly goes down. Now you can take Ozempic, torture your body with the needle pushed into your gut, which makes you sick and isn't always approved by insurance. What a price to pay for your BMI factor. Might leave you impoverished, homeless. Hey, but at least you'll be thin and starving. On that note, I have cupcakes. And there is buttercream. So we have books for sale. It's been a pleasure. What a great group of people here today. And thank you so much, all my readers. And again, Will, round of applause. Thank you again. See you in September.
You didn't get to